ESPN Kansas City is KCTE Independence and K257DZ Kansas City, 99.3 FM.
Toxic? Not quite. Edgy? Maybe. Passionate? Ain't no doubt about it.
Hold on. What?
You gotta be kidding me!
You kidding me?
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
Something is wrong with you!
Oh no! No!
He was safe at
No!
You're killing me, Smalls!
This is Radioactive Sports with Justin Pemberton.
Welcome, everybody, to another Saturday morning edition of Radioactive Sports. Good morning. And, of course, this is ESPN Kansas City, 99.3 FM and 1510 AM. Of course, I'm staring at a beautiful brand new sign we've got right behind Jim Grundy in the studios. It's just so magnificent.
That hurts. I thought you were talking about me, Justin. That's so hurtful. I even showered for you.
That sounds so weird.
This early in the morning.
How's it going, Jim?
It's going well. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. And, of course, Patrick Hennessy is back on the show, but on phone because you're in Viva Las Vegas. How's it going, buddy?
Good. More like Viva Lost Wages, as my dad likes to say. But I'm glad to be here. As always, 2 hours behind you, but it's fine.
And we got a good show for you guys lined up for today, people, as we're going to revisit the Jeremy Maclin topic from last week. Pat and I, we didn't really touch that enough based on the release of the veteran wide receiver from the Kansas City Chiefs. But we're going to get Jim's thoughts on Maclin because, of course, he is a former Mizzou player. So I thought it'd be good to have Jim on to talk about that, but not just that, but also we're going to talk about the departure, the unexpected retirement of Bob Stoops from a couple days ago. Oh, and plus we have a soundbite of Andy Reid here in the first segment talking about his own feelings on the departure of the former Chiefs receiver. But, yeah, there was some unexpected news this week of Bob Stoops stepping down as head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll talk about that in the second segment. And then coming up in the third, we'll talk some Royals baseball. Whit Merrifield, talk about how good he's been. And knowing that it is time to start playing, it's time to start getting some sweeps for this baseball team. Because knowing this weekend they're playing one of the worst teams in baseball in the San Diego Padres, or it's time to sell. I mean, I think at this point with the Royals, look, this weekend to me, 2 out of 3 would be kind of a disappointment because you look at the Padres team, other than Will Myers, who's on that team. I mean, seriously, there's no one else on the Padres that really gives you that kind of a threat, really. So it's really time to kind of start really putting the pedal to the metal and really start playing a lot better. Otherwise, you got to sell off if you're the Royals. And then we're also going to talk about a really exciting topic, at least in my mind. I don't know about you two, but the return of Are You Ready for Some Football on ESPN. Of course, that is Hank Williams Jr. is coming back after a 6-year hiatus for not being on ESPN and providing his old famous theme song to Monday Night Football. So I'm pretty excited about that, and we'll have a nice little wrap-up on that for the show. So, lots to get to. So let's kick it off by talking about Jeremy Maclin. Jim, to start you off, how do you describe this move? Is it a good move? Is it a business move? What is it in your mind?
Well, there's a couple things. One, yes, it is a business move, purely because it wasn't because of a lack of production from Jeremy Maclin. It wasn't from they just think Tyreek Hill or Chris Conley or anyone has surpassed Jeremy Maclin in terms of production. What it came down to is when you looked at the cap numbers, the Chiefs didn't have enough money to sign Patrick Mahomes, their second-round pick, that defensive end out of Villanova, Tano Pasagnon, I think his name is.
Yeah, I can't say it either.
and then their third-round pick, Kareem Hunt. And according to the Monday Morning Quarterback from on Sports Illustrated, they said they usually need about $5 million to do that. And the Chiefs only had about $3.5 million in cap space.
Yeah, and they saved about $10 million by cutting Maclin.
Exactly. So it to me, it was necessary, but the problem that I have with this is, how do you not know that coming into this? I get it, John Dorsey's not an accountant, but how do you not look at the books and make the necessary changes, or when you're looking at different contracts of who you're going to bring back or what you already have signed, how do you not take that into account? Jeremy Maclin by far is your number one wide receiver and your number two downfield threat, if there is such a thing as a Kansas City downfield threat with Alex Smith.
That's my problem too, is you don't just cut bait with your number one. Now, Macklin's not a number one threat, but he's your number one guy as far as the depth chart. Now,
he's a leader. He's a veteran.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everybody was at his wedding.
And he was the number one mentor for Tyreek Hill. And you think of also Chris Conley, also looked up to Maclin. He was talking to those guys. He was always giving them advice. He was always coaching them up, making them better leaders, better players. And now if there's a void there, who's going to step up? That's my number one question. Who's going to step into that role? And it's looking like it's going to be Conley. It's looking like it. Patrick, you want to...
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I understand the whole veteran aspect. Guys like Conley and Hill, as you said, and other guys look up to Maclin. When they're sitting there on the sidelines, when the defense is on the field and the offense is sitting on the bench waiting for their turn, it's like, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? I understand, but now that you mentioned the whole void and who's going to step up, it could be Conley, it could be Hill. I think he's going to get better with each season, with each game this year. I think this past season we've seen him really grow and show his potential, what he can be, what he is. Although I will say he's still a little bit raw. You and I talked about it earlier, Justin. I think a week or so ago when Maclin got
last week
let go. How who's going to step up now and be the big time receiver? Travis Kelce, as good as he is and as good as he can be, he's shown those flashes of brilliance at times.
He's too much of a head case.
Yeah, he's still got so much else going on with him. He's throwing flags and all this other crap. He's on a reality dating show, and all this other stuff. If it was somebody else, whatever. But Kelce, I feel like it's been a distraction for him to go after all these other things off the field instead of concentrating on being the best tight end, not named Rob Gronkowski, in the National Football League. And so I feel like he has that potential. I feel like he can be that tight end, and he can be a major weapon for the Chiefs, particularly maybe when Patrick Mahomes steps up and takes over eventually. But right now, he could still do that. Bottom line, though, is there's still that question of who is going to step up, and I don't know if it's Kelce.
Well,
I still really don't.
Another question to bring up is that has this offense, when Jeremy Maclin came here, you have a guy who can stretch the field, who's at least good in intermediate routes, and you have a guy in Alex Smith who doesn't necessarily use a wide receiver like that. You could see that, whether your opinion of Alex Smith, is check down city or, the occasional deep pass, there wasn't a lot of passes that were going Macklin's way. He relied more on the tight end. He relied more on the new weapon in Tyreek Hill. He relied on Chris Conley. It seemed oftentimes even more than Maclin in those deep routes because Conley is a bit faster than Maclin. So that's one thing that maybe the offense was trending in a different way than Maclin was. And also, even at his days at Missouri, Maclin is an often injured guy. So something like that, the money was there. The position was up for grabs anyway. And with a quarterback like Alex Smith, even though you'd love to see a guy like Patrick Mahomes grow with a guy like Jeremy Maclin, but who's to say he can't grow with Tyreek Hill? Who's to say he can't grow with Chris Conley? And also, I think, according to Pro Football Focus, I believe, Travis Kelce, reality show included, was actually a 0.1 point better statistically than Rob Gronkowski, I think, was. And I don't know, I honestly don't have that in front of me. I saw where one thing he was rated better. Now, granted, you can make stats say whatever you want to say, and maybe now that he's not on a reality show, things might be better. But I will say, we're all watching The Bachelorette, and we figured out that she dated Kevin Durant. So is anybody on a reality show meant to be trusted? Maybe that's the real thing we need to discuss. Because who dumps Kevin Durant to go to law school?
Well,
you marry him and then you still go to law school. I don't know. Maybe it was Durant. I don't know. Somebody call Kevin Durant.
He's got too many problems.
He needs to explain this. Because Rachel is a great bachelorette this year. Sorry, this took a turn, you guys.
Let's, you got me off. You got me off track, dude. Because I don't even pay attention to that crap. I don't even watch.
Me neither.
The Bachelorette and the Bachelor.
It's so good, you guys. I mean, it's terrible TV, but it's so good when you don't want to care about it.
I'd rather hear Andy Reid talk about Maclin. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to play Andy Reid getting his thoughts on the released wide receiver from the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll address the Jeremy Maclin situation, since I'm sure we'll be asked about that. I think everybody knows I'm very fond of Jeremy. This gives him time to hook on with another team, which he will do. Jeremy can still play. This is part of the NFL business. I'm not going to get into specifics with it. We go about weighing a bunch of different things. It's a decision we end up making. This is the worst part about the job, clearly. It's just it's not easy for John. It's not easy for me or for the coach. So, but it's a decision we end up making, and we go forward. I've got a ton of trust in the young guys that they'll step up and do a good job for us. And we've got the leisure. The point that we have here is we've got some good players, so we're okay there. Time's yours.
And of course, I just had to keep the time's yours thing for Patrick. I just had to. Time's yours.
Time's yours.
All right, so there's Andy Reid. Okay, so before we do take a break here, my last concern with this is the timing of it. Okay, the dude just got married here in Kansas City, and then you just cut ties with him. I mean, isn't that a little harsh? Because to me, that's harsh. That's bad.
Yeah. It does seem like it's pretty bad timing because he's obviously been considering, well, I'm going to stay here in KC for however long, and then
he was poised to have a bounce back year. I mean, I thought he was working so hard to get back to hopefully getting back to his 2015 form or prior to that.
Right. I think that he came in, he seemed like he was going to do pretty well, but the issue that you and I, Justin, have talked about constantly is even when he was healthy, he wasn't getting those
I understand. He wasn't productive. He wasn't as fast. I get it.
And then the fact, obviously, of course, as Jim pointed out, he's had a history of having health issues. I mean, so those are the two things that, to me, I mean, yes, I'm disappointed that he was let go, but at the same time, it does kind of sort of make some sense because at some point you got to figure out, is this guy going to continue being a health issue liability, or and when he gets back and healthy and on the field again, starting at wide receiver, is he going to be the productive receiver that he was that we saw in 2015, or is he going to be the guy that in limited action wasn't getting targeted enough? But I mean, and it also raises the question: could Mahomes be considering Maclin as a good second guy to target when he comes up and starts a quarterback? Who knows? But I mean, it's bad all around. But I mean, it does make some sense too.
It does, but it's it's all. I mean, all at the same time. It's just it's a very disappointing move, and it just lingers the question: who's going to step up? Or we're just going to wait and see. I mean, maybe. I mean, Conley's he could be the guy now, as we talked about already. Maybe is it DeMarcus Robinson, the second-year guy from Florida?
From Florida,
I mean, he could step up. I mean, you never know, but
it just depends on what you want to do with Tyreek Hill. Is Tyreek Hill another Dexter McCluster experiment, or is Tyreek Hill an actual wide receiver that you're actually going to use?
To me,
that's the real question.
To me, if I was the Chiefs, I would make Hill a actual receiver. I mean, I'm done with these little experiments. I mean, we've had that with McCluster. We've had that with DeAnthony Thomas. I mean, there's enough of that. I mean, I want to actually develop somebody. It's almost the same problem as the Royals having these little experiments, of somewhat developing a little bit of starting pitching, but not enough. I mean, I want to see the Chiefs develop big-time receivers for the first time, like really ever in the entire franchise's history, minus Otis Taylor. So, I mean, I'm ready for more big-time developing from the Chiefs. So, Go ahead, Patrick. What did you say?
No, I'm saying, yeah, I agree with that 100%.
All right, so we're going to step aside and we're going to take our first break of this morning. And when we come right back, we're going to talk about the most shocking development story from this week in the world of college football and even the world of sports. Bob Stoops retires after 18 years at the helm as head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll come back with more with Patrick Hennessy and Jim Grundy on the show this morning with me. This is Radioactive Sports here on ESPN Kansas City.
Yes, stepping down after 18 years as the head football coach here at Oklahoma, and feel like I've been absolutely the luckiest, most fortunate guy in the world. Been incredibly blessed to have experienced what we have over the last 18 and a half years. And I felt I didn't want to miss the right opportunity to be able to step away and hand this baton off to Lincoln Riley, and to help keep this all just going in a great direction.
Welcome back. This is Radioactive Sports right here on ESPN Kansas City, 99.3 FM and 1510 AM. We still have Jim Grundy, and for a moment we lost Patrick, but he is back. He dropped off for a few seconds, but then we were able to get him back on, so no worries there. Still alive.
Yeah, I'm still alive. I haven't met Brett Musburger yet, unfortunately, but if I do, I'll have to take a picture.
That's right. You retired, went out to Vegas.
You're looking live at the Strip where I am.
You are looking live at Viva Las Vegas.
Under, baby.
Spoiler alert, he's on a roof. And his friend has already lost a tooth and gotten married.
How about Bob Stoops, guys? That was quite a shocking development on Wednesday. I did not see that coming.
That's one of those curveballs he just gets thrown out of nowhere. It's like, I mean, he seems like he's in pretty good health and pretty good shape, and I mean, he still seems like he can coach. I mean, I don't think that there's any problems there. I mean, unless he wants to take a little bit of a break and reset for a couple of years, and then when he's ready, he can come back. And I'm hopeful that he will. If that's the case, then he'll come back to Oklahoma and that he'll stay with the program in some capacity.
Yeah, but there's also the possibility you're gonna have the NFL coming out there wanting him to be a head coach.
He's not going to the NFL.
Oh, they're gonna be.
There's no way.
They're gonna pony up. Some team out there is gonna pony up a contract, and they're gonna give him some kind of deal. Trust me, it's been happening for years. I mean, the Chiefs were rumored a couple times him as a head coaching candidate.
He would have been great here in Kansas City.
Yeah, sure he would be. And you think of, I think back to Wednesday when Kevin was talking about it on Between the Lines. He brought up the Colts situation. You get rid of that clown in Pagano, you put him in that system with Andrew Luck, it's a whole new ball game in Indy.
I mean, he did a good job with Sam Bradford and Jason White at quarterback in the early and mid 2000s.
Yeah, don't remind me about Jason White. Don't remind me. When Darren Sproles outperformed him in the Big 12 title game in 2003, and yet Sproles only finished 6th in the Heisman voting. What's up with that, people? Come on.
It's not about one game, man. It's about the whole season.
I know, but Darren Sproles has more talent than Jason White. And look, Sproles made it to the NFL. Jason White never even peed a drop.
See, that's how, and it all worked out in the end, didn't it, Justin? Maybe that's why Jason White won the Heisman, is because some higher power knew that he just wouldn't do anything else with his career.
I mean, it's funny. Everybody was saying that could have been the greatest college football team ever before they did play Kansas State in the Big 12 title game, and well, you get absolutely pummeled by the Wildcats, and you go into the national title game against LSU, and you get destroyed too. So, I think the title name Big Game Bob was kind of a bad name to begin with, because there was always that one game during the season every year that just killed OU's chances for a national championship every year. Every time.
That's not something that you saw with Barry Switzer, I don't think, often, if I recall correctly.
Not as often.
But not as often. Bud Wilkinson, for sure, was even greater. You look back at what he accomplished and achieved in his tenure in Norman, including, a couple of undefeated seasons. So I don't know what to make of all that. I do agree, though, that there was always one game that just seemed to be problematic for Stoops, whatever it may have been, whether it was Kansas State or Baylor in recent years or somebody else.
Then you think of the, Red River between them and Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those were, for the most part, minus the last maybe 4 years, mostly pretty well entertained ball games between them two. And but now let's move into why Bob stepped down. Okay, there's been all kinds of speculation that it had to do with the recent issues involving D.D. Westbrook, and you think of Joe Mixon, obviously. Guys, do you really buy that, or
no?
Was it just?
What does that matter? None of that ever mattered in his coaching career, and unless I'll just say this: when you become a haven for places like that, he should have come under fire for that, and he never did. That he's basically where careers that should have died came and revived themselves. Joe Mixon is an NFL player. Dorial Green-Beckham is an NFL player. D.D. Westbrook is an NFL player. You've got a lot of sketcy places, but it doesn't matter because he wins. The worst record he ever had at Oklahoma was his first year.
Yeah, 7-5.
7-5.
Mm-hmm.
And he coached for 18 years at Oklahoma, had an almost just under 800 winning percentage. It doesn't matter what he did.
Only 5 times, I believe, if I'm correct. 5 times he ever lost in Norman at home.
That sounds about right. And he has a 9-9 bowl record, but you look at some of the bowls that he's been in, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Rose, Sugar, Orange, Fiesta, Championship Game, Fiesta, Cotton, Sugar, Orange, Sugar. Like that, those are games where if you have a team like Boise State, certainly at the time, or a team that has a lot more to play for. Oklahoma was always at the top of the hill when he was there. And I always hated that, and not that I rooted for Bob Stoops or anything. Clearly I was still a student in the Big 12 when he was there. And of course was there at one of his hopefully most famous upsets when Missouri toppled them on homecoming night, which is still some of the greatest 24 hours of my life.
No, that was in Columbia, right?
It was in Columbia. I was there. My buddy came and visited me, and he stormed the field, but he didn't get arrested. So I got very lucky there. That was also the year I was on TV with football homecoming and basketball college game day. And where Missouri broke the previous record for most fans at a college game day.
So I want to know, because I've been kind of asking myself this question for the last couple of days. Does this still make OU the favorite to win the Big 12? Because I don't really think so. I think you have to start thinking of TCU. You have to think of, maybe West Virginia, maybe. Do you throw in Texas?
No, not till next year.
With Herman,
Texas will make noise this year, but you don't throw them in the discussion until next year, unless they pull a.
Does Kansas State come into the mix because they got a pretty good team coming back?
Kansas State would come into the mix before Texas does.
Knowing this is probably Bill Snyder's last go around.
That's the thing. If you're Kansas State right now, you build up all the hype you can because you do Bill Snyder's last go around. Yep. You have just about everybody coming back on a very successful, a decent offense, a very good defense that is coming back to a tough environment to play.
Here's the problem. Kansas State lost Elijah Lee, one of the most talented linebackers in the Big 12. He went early, went to the pros, got drafted late. You lose Jordan Willis, who was a stud at Kansas State. So there's some holes to fill on the defense, but it should be.
But when have they ever not filled them? Kansas State.
They filled them up. They're fine.
Right,
They're going to be fine.
Exactly. If there's something Bill Snyder can do, one, it's have excellent penmanship when he writes thank you notes, and two, he figures out a way to beat you.
That is true.
And number three, he goes to Taco Bell every single day.
He just read my mind.
Don't you besmirch the name of Bill Snyder Family Taco Bell. Don't you besmirch that wonderful franchise. It's about the only thing in Manhattan he doesn't own yet.
I wonder if he's owned a Pizza Hut yet.
Or where it's not even named after him.
What if he owned it the whole time?
Yeah, the original Pizza Hut was down in Wichita, if I recall correctly. What if he went down there in the first place and was like, okay, let's get this show going.
Okay, so Bob Stoops will finish with the most wins of any OU coach in history of the program, 190. That's incredible. I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago when he passed Barry Switzer for most wins? I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. I have to look back at it.
But just an incredible career, and I do wish nothing but the best for him in his retirement. And I would think it's going to probably be a year or so before he comes back to coaching. He's too good of a coach to not, and he's in too good of health too to not coach.
Right.
We don't know he's not in too good of health. That's why he's retiring. He's retiring to focus on family and his health. It's probably an Urban Meyer situation, where if you're a coach like that, you're working terrible hours, you never see your family, you're always somewhere recruiting, that if he takes he'll probably do the eventually John Gruden thing, or like the Urban Meyer thing. He'll be on ESPN for 2-3 years, and then he'll probably get the urge to coach again. Maybe he'll come back to Oklahoma. I doubt it. He'd probably come back to Oklahoma in a way that, like Gary Pinkel, he's moved into the athletic department as mainly a fundraiser, something like that, someone to pander to Oklahoma fans.
That's what Keatsman mentioned on Wednesday, was that there's going to be a potential role that he may stay on with the university.
Yeah,
and he'll still get paid and everything. So,
but his offensive coordinator is a guy who's been on coaching lists and hiring lists for how long? So it's a natural progression. You have an up and coming coach, possibly a good team that still has a possible Big 12 winning roster, and you have a coach that gets to go out after winning the Sugar Bowl last year. So he gets to go out on top. Mm-hmm. So it's for OU, it's a good time to do this. They're on top. They're theoretically going to stay on top, and I'd do it now while nobody's really caring about college football yet, and then it won't be a big deal where people just all of a sudden are like, "Oh, we're 5-0. Oh, Bob Stoops isn't on the sideline, huh? All right."
Yeah, and Jim, you're forgetting about a guy at your Mizzou, the godfather of the split T formation, Don Farrow. He was the athletic director for a little while. After being head coach, and I think while being head coach over there in Columbia too, of the football program, if I'm not mistaken. So, so that's another example there for you.
I don't think he'll be AD. That's too much work. Bob Stoops has got too much money. I wouldn't want to do that.
No.
Keep Castiglione doing that. I'd just retire and go enjoy all of my my trophies and rewatch that game against Missouri every day. That's what I would do if I were Bob Stoops.
And just go play some golf.
And the national championship game.
Exactly.
Yep, against Florida State back in 2000.
January 2001, yeah.
Yep. Just real quick, some other coaching news, but in college basketball, Chris Holtmann is now the new head coach at Ohio State. He is leaving Butler. Yeah. So, what do you guys think about that? Is that a decent hire, or they could have gone for someone bigger too? Probably.
Yeah, they could have gone for somebody bigger, I think. I mean, they were already trying to court Greg McDermott away from Creighton. That wasn't going to happen.
I heard Fred Hoiberg's name in the mix, too.
Yes, Fred Hoiberg, too. But the only way that Fred Hoiberg's going to go back to college to the college ranks, he's going to come back home to Iowa State, which that may be at some point. But, you know, I was talking to a friend about this yesterday. Ohio State, they need to have a guy who can be better than Thad Matta. I mean, don't get me wrong. Going to 2 Final Fours isn't bad, but at the same time, you got to have somebody who can consistently get you to the second weekend at the very minimum and have a very
right, and then have somebody that can get you over the hump and actually win the whole thing, because he couldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah. Even when he had Mike Conley Jr., he had Greg Oden. You think of D'Angelo Russell a couple years ago, who's now a Los Angeles Laker. He's a stud. So, yeah, he's had some good runs. And you think of Butler. That 1 year he's at Butler. He had his time at Xavier, took them to a Elite Eight back in 03-04. So yeah, he had a nice run as head coach, and he may not be done coaching either. So, but interesting move at University of Ohio State. Chris Holtmann, now the new head coach at the Ohio State University. So,
God, I hate that C.
Yeah, when they say that, I know it's I don't know, it's
stupid.
But it works because you guys just said it.
That's true. I did just say it. Yeah.
Hashtag branding. Boom.
Hashtag university branding.
Yeah, this is the radioactive sports.
Exactly.
Dang it, we're going to take it.
Dang, man. That's just perfect. Thank you, Jim.
Right?
Awesome.
I'm just trying to help you here, Justin.
That's legit. Awesome. Dang, we're having so much fun now. Wow. I just boosted up a step. All right, so we're going to take a break here, and we'll come back to the radioactive sports. See, there you go. Now I'm into it.
Sounds good.
It does sound good. All right, so when we do come right back, we'll talk some Royals baseball. Whit Merrifield is having an awesome run. He also had a hitting streak going on. Who knows if he'll work his way back to a longer hitting streak, but I think he's making his case to be the everyday second baseman, and we'll talk about how it's time to put up or shut up for the Royals. You're going to play those lonely Padres in San Diego, the lone team in that city now. So it's time to put a nice beat down on those Friars this weekend out in San Diego. So we'll talk more with Jim Grundy and Patrick Hennessy when we come right back after this break. This is Radioactive Sports on ESPN Kansas City, or should I say the Radioactive Sports together. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Radioactive Sports right here on ESPN Kansas City, 99.3 FM and 1510 AM. Still have Mr. Jim Grundy, the very impressive imitator of Eric Cartman from one of the most beloved shows for most people, South Park. And Patrick Hennessy, who can do other impressions most of the time.
Most of the time.
And I can too. So we're all very good. Like I can imitate the Midwest Outdoor guys.
Yeah, Fred Ramsey and Mark Tobin.
This is Midwest Outdoor Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Fred. Hope you're doing well, buddy.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Mark Tobin.
Yeah. I mean,
tell you what, got some great recipes. Got some great recipes from Mr. Tobin.
They were up here a couple weeks ago, and Mark brought a fish fryer and fried some fish in the break room, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Not as good as Whit Merrifield, though.
No,
man.
And facing those Friars this weekend.
Yeah, he's gonna. I hope he fries them up, and I bet he will, because man, he is on a tear. Of course, had that 19-game hitting streak, the second most by a Royals second baseman in Royals history. Of course, that is Jose Offerman. Long live Jose, at 27, unbelievable, back in 1998. And then, of course, I don't know where that puts Merrifield as far as Royals history goes.
Third.
Is it third?
Yeah, because 19th, and we talked about this earlier
Brett,
last week.
George Brett 30,
30 and 19.
Jose Offerman 27, then Merrifield 19. So, man. Guys, I think he is going to be the second baseman unless Ned Yost does something pretty stupid. I think he's going to be the guy, because, I mean, Mondesi is going to probably end up being the future shortstop unless they re-sign Escobar to some kind of new deal, which they might. But I don't see how this guy cannot play second base. He's too good.
I mean, he's got everything that you would want. I mean, of course, now defensively, he's going to do a good job. He's not going to be unbelievably phenomenal like a Frank White, but I mean, he's going to be a guy who can play every day for you. He can play all 162. I think he can hit. He can hit. He's shown that. Smart base runner. He's quick. And I mean, I think his arm is all right. I mean, I don't think you have to have a phenomenal arm if you're a second baseman, unless you're Roberto Alomar. But I mean, he can do pretty much anything for you. And I think that for the next several years, he should be the guy that you pin it right in every day in the lineup at second base.
Jim, what do you think?
Well, I certainly think he's been the player that the Royals have needed. And I think that's one thing as you look at the teams that have been the most successful for the Royals. Certainly you have the guys that step up. You have your Canes, your Hosmers, your Mooses, your Davises, Holland. You know, insert all-star caliber player here. That there's always been a point where there have been the Dysons, where there have been the Gores, there have been the Escobars, there have been even the Aokis at times. And Whit Merrifield has become another one of those just plug and play, where the guys that you don't need to be worried about if somebody's having a slump or something like that, but the guy that if the Stars are having the slump, they can kind of fill in that role as well. And I agree with you that it'd be foolish not to have him as the everyday second baseman. I liked the Mondesi experiment before, albeit it was probably in the wrong position because Escobar was already supplanting him at short. But I think that maybe if Whit becomes the full-time second baseman, you can get Mondesi as a full-time shortstop starting next year if they don't get an extension done with Escobar. And then we'll see this defense really start to take shape, assuming that possibly you'd have Cuthbert at third, who filled in very nicely last year for Moose, and whoever fills in for Hosmer, whether that's somebody internally or whether that's somebody that they go out and get, probably on the cheap. Or even, hey, they might even trade for Matt Adams. You never even know that he'll be quite the trade piece this year. Just depends on what they can get at the trade deadline. Or if the Royals are still not quite sellers yet. But that is something that they'll need to figure out soon. But I think if you look at the sure things in Kansas City over the next year or two, one is Alex Gordon's going to be your left fielder. Two is Salvador Perez is going to be your catcher. Three, Danny Duffy is going to be your ace. And number four really could be that Whit Merrifield ought to be somewhere on that infield. He's hitting well enough. I even liked him batting leadoff. Sure, it didn't help his hitting streak, but it's also he's going to be pitched differently when he's in the leadoff spot rather than him hitting 6th, 7th, or 8th. But you look at his fielding numbers are okay. They're not fantastic, but they're fine. They're certainly at replacement level, so we're not losing anything there. But you look at his batting average, he's hit 285 over 2 years. On-base percentage leaves a little to be desired, but it hasn't been bad for a guy who could play an everyday second base. And he's already performed over a 1.5 WAR for each of the 2 seasons he's played in Kansas City. I think you'd take that all day if you're looking at the advanced statistics too.
And I made this statement, I think, I've yet to do so on social media, but I think I told you, Patrick, that I think that Merrifield is the best leadoff hitter the Royals have had since Johnny Damon. And, and there's not been a whole lot to go around and say, oh, well, this guy was. No, this guy was. I think it's really true. Merrifield is the best leadoff guy since Damon.
Alex Gordon wasn't too bad in that situation. Granted, he shouldn't have been a leadoff hitter, but if you look at talent hitting at leadoff, Alex Gordon technically would probably be a better leadoff hitter than Whit Merrifield. Otherwise, yeah, you're probably right.
And then didn't I'm going back to some of the lean years, but Mark Grzelcyk, didn't he lead off too? I think
possibly.
And then you do have the experiment with David DeJesus too. I think he led off a few times, and he wasn't bad. But I think I still think I'm sticking with 2-hit Whit as leadoff.
Yeah,
best one since Damon.
There's no other person that you need to have up there. I know I was talking to my parents, both big, major, massive Royal fans, and my mom in particular said, the moment that Merrifield gets promoted up to the leadoff slot, it's like his 19-game hitting streak comes to an end. No. That's just one of those nights where a streak ends. I think he can go on multiple, in my opinion, 20-game hit streaks, plus if he's up at the leadoff spot, because he's the type of guy who can get your offense going in the game.
You could tell when he was trying to extend it, and he was like already 0 for 2 or 0 for 3, he was pressing. He was really trying, and it just didn't pan out. Okay, so let's now talk about real quick this weekend series with the Padres. Boys, I think it's sweep. I mean, 2 out of 3 to me is disappointing. You've got to sweep the Padres, because then that puts the Royals at 29-33, and who knows where that would put them as far as division goes. That may put them. I mean, it depends on what Minnesota does. You got Cleveland and also Detroit. That may put them 2.5 games out by the end of this weekend. It might.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, I think this team, if they can sweep the Padres, and that's something that should be expected, given how bad they are. Given how bad they are, if they win only 2 out of 3 or worse, then you've got to be saying to yourself, if you're in the front office, it's time to sell.
Right.
Because this team has just not proven to back up any major series. Like, for example, the Orioles came into town. They came to Kauffman Stadium. The Royals swept them. And then what happens the next series when the Yankees come in? The Yankees come in and do their usual number and do their damage at Kauffman Stadium. And then it leaves everybody thinking, well, I mean, you and I talked about this at that point too, Justin. If Baltimore and New York come in and the Royals win 4 out of 6 or better, then we can continue to see them as being competitive for a wild card, if not the Central Division. Am I correct?
And also, yeah, you are correct, Patrick. And let's also not forget the Friars did sweep the Cubs.
Yes, they did a good public service.
Well, I think that's what we're overlooking here, is that this isn't like football where, if the Chiefs go to San Diego, they have a better team up and down the field, and they should theoretically therefore win. I mean, baseball's a strange game. I mean, Patrick, you just pointed it out, or you guys just pointed it out, that who did the Padres beat? Oh, wait, the World Series champion Cubs. Now, granted, the Cubs aren't the Cubs of last year, and that's not saying to hold that against the Padres, but you look at, they have a perennial all-star in Will Myers. They have arguably one of the surprises of the season in Alan Cordoba, who they actually picked off picked up off the Cardinals Rule 5 draft. And you've got some talent in there. That Matt Caesar was a guy who was kind of a role player on the Cubs. Chase Denard isn't terrible. I do agree that it's something where, yes, you should win the series, especially throwing Kennedy and hopefully getting good performances from Skoglund and Junis. But I don't think this is the make or break point. I think this is a matter of you've already made your decision. The players that you put out there will either further instigate you to trade or further entice you to stay.
Well, actually, I think it is because I think Dayton Moore said that they're going to wait until after the draft, and the draft is on Monday. So I think it is the breaking point. I think if you do sweep, you'll keep yourself in it a little bit longer than unless you, after that, don't do well against the Giants for 2 games. You don't do well against who else? They're playing the Padres and the Giants, and they're on the road to I forget who they're playing. But if they don't do well, minus against the Padres, and then I mean it'll be time to say, well, it's time to pack it in. Let's sell. It's sell.
Right.
But for right now, I mean, just go sweep the Padres. I mean, I don't want to see 2 out of 3 because, I mean, if the world was so perfect and baseball was only a 2-game series all year, we had not a 3-game series all year, but you had 2-game series all year, then the Royals would be winners all the time because they're so good at taking the first 2 games for the most part.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they get lazy after that second game. We got the series.
Ned trots out his Sunday getaway lineup. Which, I mean, no offense to Butera giving Salvi a rest. No offense to that, but I mean, still, it's just one of those things where the Royals kind of need to get over themselves and say, "Hey, we need to be more serious. Let's go." Or in other terms, you could have someone else give you a nice kick in the rear end.
Hey. Numbnuts, let's go.
Good old Gunther. I just had to throw it in there.
That's right.
Let's take a break, guys. So we're going to come right back for the final segment of the show. And we're going to talk about some Monday Night Football returning to ESPN. An old friend is coming back. Good old Hank Williams Jr. is coming back with his old theme song. And I'm... as a kid, it got me all excited, so I'm pretty pumped up about this. We'll talk about that to wrap up the show next with Jim Grundy and Patrick Hennessy. This is Radioactive Sports, or should I say yet again, the Radioactive Sports on ESPN Kansas City. We'll be right back. We are back here on Radioactive Sports, here on ESPN Kansas City. Still have Patrick Hennessy. Not Wellborn, but Hennessy. And
unless you want me to be.
Hey, I'm the guy who does Patrick Wellborn.
I was also on Rules of Engagement.
And The Emperor's New Groove and Seinfeld. So.
All right. Kim Possible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played the big scary guy. Not like the evil guy, but like the principal.
Oh. Gee, that's 2 guys. And then Will Ferrell, who played... No, not Will Ferrell, but... No. Yeah. Who played Eric Matthews on Boy Meets World.
Yeah, he was Ron Stoppable.
Mm-hmm. And Terry McGinnis on Batman Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, we're getting kind of nerdy now, so... but we're about to get nerdy anyway. We're talking about sports, talking about football, Monday Night Football, as ESPN has announced that Hank Williams Jr. is coming back to do his old theme song, which I am, as I told you guys, I mean, this really got me riled up when I was a kid. I mean, I always loved, it was the start to a fun Monday night when you heard the intro and you just knew something good was about to happen. A good game was about to happen, and you know, for the most part in the 90s, I'd say most of the good games the Chiefs had came on those nights or on Monday nights.
Yeah, there were some really good games the Chiefs were involved in, and you think about those games in the 1990s, and the Hank Williams Jr. theme always accompanied it seemed like.
Exactly. Jim, what do you think about it?
Oh, the song?
Yeah.
I don't know. The song never added anything for me. It was more kind of like I watch Monday Night Football for the game.
Oh, I did too.
It is strange that ESPN has chosen to get rid of a lot of people who cover football. Like, you get rid of John Clayton and Ed Werder, but you bring back a guy who you fired for comparing a president to Hitler. I don't know. That to me just seemed like the weird part of it. Where, I mean, the song is okay. We all three of us could create a just as good of a song to open Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
if we Photoshop Carrie Underwood's legs on it, it would probably be okay. It was one of those to me where when he left, I was like, oh, he's not there anymore. And now when I saw he was bringing him back, I'm like, oh, that's weird that you can pay him, but you can't pay people who actually cover things for your site. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
What's the whole... I don't understand the whole purpose of what they're trying to do.
Trying to make money, homie. People cost money. People don't actually care about real journalism anymore, Justin. People just care about talking heads yelling at each other. Why do you think I've been screaming about Tom Brady's squishy balls every time I come on this show? Because that's what the people want. They don't want hard-hitting journalism like Whit Merrifield. They want Tom Brady's squishy balls. It's what they want. And they want South Park impersonations. That's what they want.
Yeah, you do a pretty good job of that. That's for sure, Jim.
Oh yes, you do. No, but I mean I can go with that song. I mean, either way, I mean it doesn't add or detract from the product of Monday Night Football. But I mean, Jim does bring up the good point about what he did. But I mean,
it's just strange timing more than anything.
True,
right?
It is.
Like what are you bringing back? Like who isn't watching football?
Yeah,
because
why
Hank Williams Jr. wasn't singing the song. I mean, you know, I know you, Justin, were boycotting it because you were like, "Gosh darn it, I need that song," and I'm not going to watch football.
It brought a little excitement to it. It really did.
Right, but I mean, no one's gonna be like, well, you know, I'm not going to watch this football game because a random country singer is not singing the intro song.
Sure.
Like Jeeves, what are we supposed to do tonight? Play categories? Like I'm not going to watch this football game. Hank Williams Jr. not singing. No, ESPN, you don't get my watch tonight. It's not how that works.
The next thing that needs to happen is it needs to come back on ABC. I mean, I'm tired of the look of ESPN on ABC kind of deal. It's really supposed to be ABC Sports, and that could be happening with the way ESPN is going.
But that's how you got to get people to pay for cable subscriptions. So you can't put it on over-air network. Then people can watch it, Justin. More people are not allowed to enjoy things than it would be radio or the internet.
Because I know ABC Sports still has like their own radio like branding.
They do,
and
it's all under Disney anyway.
Yeah,
but if Disney forces you to pay for cable, which also pays for 100 other shows, instead of just getting an antenna and getting the over-air channels for free, they make more money.
I don't know. I just found it interesting this week seeing that good old Hank is coming back, and I think it should make the beginning a lot better than what it has been in recent years. And
what have they even been doing to the beginning? Has there been a song?
Not really. Just the old theme song for, and they even changed the theme of of Monday Night Football a little bit too, where it's not like what it was on ABC and the very, very first theme. They changed a little bit. It don't sound as good. So I don't know, but I think it's going to be an improvement. And I'm just kind of going back to what we were just talking about, the timing. Why did it take 6 years? I mean, they could have, Hank Williams and ESPN could have.
Because Obama's not president anymore?
Well, okay, yeah, yes, that. But then you also think of to when he was still president, that he could have worked out terms and he could have apologized. He could have made up for it.
Don't think people who say those things usually apologize.
True.
I mean, you're bringing up logical things here, Justin. I'm just saying people aren't logical.
True.
Why do you think hundreds of thousands of people are listening this early in the morning? Because we're amazing and people aren't logical.
That's true.
It's mostly the first part, but possibly the second part. Patrick's calling from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You should be on top of a roof right now. You shouldn't even be talking to us.
Why would I be on top of a roof, though?
Because it's Las Vegas and I'm reimagining The Hangover.
Now that I think about it, yeah. The only way it would work, though, is if both of you and Charlie and I were reenacting The Hangover, but much more intelligently.
That's fair. You pay for my ticket, I will throw you on the roof right now. I will lock you up there and just forget about you for 2 days. I will be that good of a friend to you. I will do what I can.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Hey, so much fun this morning. Hey, thank you, Jim, for being on here again. And, of course, Patrick, you enjoy your remaining stay in Viva Las Vegas, my friend.
Like I said, Viva Las Vegas. A shout out to my dad for bringing that up so many years ago.
All right, that's going to do it right here on ESPN Kansas City for another Saturday. Go out and enjoy your beautiful weekend. It's supposed to be nice out here again today. Enjoy whatever's going to be remaining on here on ESPN Kansas City and, of course, on our sister station, Sports Radio 810 WHB. Stay tuned for the W with Walls and Watson coming up from 10 to 11 and, of course, other local programming. Otherwise, that's going to pretty much do it. Check out, of course, this show if you missed it here on this station on SoundCloud.com for the podcast. As I will be pretty much signing off here, and that's going to be it. So I'll be back again next Saturday for another show from 6 to 7. We'll see you again next week.
Justin Pemberton.
That's awesome.
Did you see the hashtag cards pickup lines? The other.
Oh yeah, cards pickup. Oh well, that one was good, and then hashtag better than the Cardinals.
Yes, that too.
Yep. Yeah, I think the STL cards. He comes up with one after every loss, and it's pretty good.
If you want me to play bad, I could play really, really bad.
Really bad.
And what was that one about Jerko myself?
I forget the exact word.
I could pull it up real quick because I've got Twitter open here because ESPN Kansas City retweeted my tweet.
Cards pickup lines. Here we go.
Oh, you got
my
it.
body's telling me no, but my third base coach is telling me yes.
That was perfect.
Boy, I hope you have some Viagra because my D is weak.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
Just give me your best 11 years, then you'll truly be an angel.
Oh, God.
That's the best Pujols line I've ever.
Or it could be Mike Trout. But
they didn't.
Instead of be 11 years, it'd be give me your best 7 years.
6.
Are you Mike Matheny? Because you pull out too late.
So yeah, Pat was up here one night, and he just started reading these off, and we were just laughing so hard.
That's funny.
This is going to go as another blooper, by the way, for the show. So
absolutely.
I'm keeping it. For keeps.
Are you a multiple run lead? Can I blow you? Oh, there's one that has a picture of Matheny that says, "Hey girl, I promise to be very aggressive in all the wrong ways."
Speaking of reliever, I add Wade Davis's ERA for the last 4 years, 1.17 in 4 years. Yep, I think TJ's right. He is not human. He's a robot.
He is a robot.
I know.
Because every time
I am Wade Davis. I am a robot.
Because every time you ask him, he's like, "No, I'm not a robot," and you keep telling him that's exactly what a robot would
yes,
say.
I'm not a robot.
I am Osimo. Like, I am Wade Davis.
All right. Well, screw this stuff. Let's move on.
Screw you guys. I'm doing radio.
ESPN Kansas City is KCTE Independence and K257DZ Kansas City 99.3 FM.
Bye-bye.